She didn't yell. She didn't slam a door. She just stood at the top of the stairs in that quiet, pinched-lipped way of hers and said, "You can sleep on the couch tonight." That was it. Like she was offering me a weather report or asking me to take out the trash. No fight. No explanation. Just that cold sentence sliding across the room like a knife. I stared up at her, blinking, heart stumbling a beat. "Are you serious?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just turned and disappeared into the bedroom, shutting the door with that soft, final click that always felt worse than a slam. I stood there for a few seconds, coat still on, keys in hand, wondering if I'd somehow missed the argument that earned me the couch. The thing is, it wasn't about the couch. It hadn't been for months. It was in the way she stopped kissing me goodbye, the way she answered my questions with shrugs, the way her phone lived under her pillow now, vibrating softly at night like a secret. But I ignored it. I kept telling myself we were tired, busy, that love comes in seasons, and maybe this was just winter. But winters still have warmth somewhere. Fires, blankets, kind words. This was frostbite. I didn't sleep on the couch. I walked out the door. I remember the way the hallway felt, hollow, like I was walking through the ribs of something long dead. I got in the car, sat behind the wheel, and stared at the steering wheel for 10 long minutes. My hands wouldn't move. I wasn't angry. I was just empty, like I had spent everything I had trying to keep her warm, and she had already packed up and moved into the cold. I didn't have a plan. I just drove, past our old coffee shop, past the bookstore where we used to meet after work, past the bakery where I once bought her that dumb cake she pretended to hate but ate in one sitting. Every place had a memory, and every memory felt like a stranger now. By the time I pulled into the hotel parking lot, I didn't know if I was running away or just trying to remember how to breathe. It was a mid-range place, clean lobby, soft jazz in the background, the kind of place where no one asks questions because they've already heard it all. I asked for a room with a king-sized bed, then immediately felt stupid for still thinking that way. Old habits. I took the elevator up to the 4th floor and stood in the hallway, staring at the door to room 418 like it might hold an answer. The room smelled like lemon cleaner and air conditioning. Sterile, but safe. I dropped my bag on the floor, took off my shoes, and just sat on the edge of the bed. My phone buzzed. One message. From her. "Don't forget to feed the dog. No, are you okay? No, where did you go?" Just a reminder. Like I was the hired help. I stared at the screen until the light faded out. That's when I made the call. To someone I hadn't spoken to in a long time. Someone who used to mean something, before I convinced myself I could live without being missed. Her name was Natalie. Not an ex. Not an affair. Just a ghost from a simpler time. We met at a mutual friend's wedding 3 years ago. She was smart, warm, the kind of person who makes you feel seen without even trying. We talked for hours that night, about books, life, all the things people forget to say out loud. Nothing happened. I was married. She respected that. But she smiled like she already knew I wasn't happy. I never forgot that smile. I called her because I didn't know who else would pick up and actually mean it. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Hey," she said, voice gentle. "You okay?" And just like that, the ice cracked. I didn't tell her everything. I just said, "Can we talk?" She didn't hesitate. "Sure. Where are you?" 10 minutes later, she was at the hotel lobby. No makeup. Hoodie. Eyes full of quiet concern. When she saw me, she didn't ask questions. She just hugged me. Long and real, like someone who remembered who I used to be before I forgot myself. We went up to the room. We sat on opposite ends of the bed. Talked for hours. She made me laugh, real laugh, not the polite kind I'd been faking for months. I told her about the couch, about the silence, about how I felt like a ghost in my own home. She listened, not with sympathy, with recognition, like she'd been there too. At some point, she said something that stuck. "You can forgive someone for hurting you, but you can't keep staying where you're not wanted." That's when I realized I hadn't left home. I just finally arrived somewhere I wasn't invisible. It was 2:43 a.m. when she touched my hand. Light, like a question. I didn't pull away, because in that moment, for the first time in months, someone actually missed me. Natalie didn't stay the night. She squeezed my hand, kissed my cheek, not like a lover, but like someone honoring a fracture, and said, "Call me tomorrow if you want company. Or don't. Just be honest, okay?" Then she left, hoodie drawn tight, her perfume lingering in the sterile air like the last note of a forgotten song. I lay in that hotel bed for hours, staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the heater and the muffled sounds of people living lives just beyond the drywall. And for the first time since this slow decay began, I asked myself a question I hadn't dared to ask. When did I become someone my wife could send to the couch like a child? I used to be her safe place. I remember when she used to crawl into bed just to be closer to me. When Sunday mornings meant pancakes and records playing in the kitchen, not separate rooms and scrolling phones. Somewhere along the way, I became a fixture. A lamp. There, functional. Taken for granted until it flickered. The next morning, I returned home. Quietly. Like a ghost. She was in the kitchen, hair pulled back, hoodie oversized. Mine, once. Her back was to me. She didn't turn around. Just said, "Did you feed Max?" Max is our dog. Or maybe just hers now. I did. I replied, setting my keys on the counter like it was any normal Tuesday. She poured her coffee, silent. The room stretched long and cold between us. "Where'd you sleep?" she asked eventually. "In a hotel." She paused. Still didn't look at me. "Really?" "Yeah," I said. Figured the couch was already taken by everything we're not saying. That got her to turn. Just a little. Her eyes met mine. Not surprised, not hurt. Just blank. Like we'd both been walking in a fog so long we forgot what clarity even looked like. "I needed space," she said. "You've had space," I answered, not unkindly. "You've had months of it. You just forgot to tell me you were moving out while still living here." She looked down at her mug, fingers tracing the rim. I didn't know how to say it. And there it was. The confession. Not betrayal, not anger, just distance so thick you could drown in it. We didn't fight. We didn't scream. We just sat there, two people who used to be everything to each other, now navigating a conversation like strangers dividing up the last pieces of a home that stopped feeling like one. Later that day, I found the old photo strip from the county fair. Us, for years younger, laughing so hard in the second frame, we couldn't keep our eyes open. I stared at it for a long time, wondering how two people could fall that far without ever hearing the crash. That evening, I got another text from Natalie. "Just thinking about you. No pressure. Just here." I didn't reply. Not right away. I just stared at the screen until it dimmed again. Because I wasn't ready for comfort. I wasn't ready for warmth. Not yet. I needed to sit in the cold for a little longer. Not out of punishment, but clarity. So I stayed another night in the hotel. Same room. Same hum of the heater. But this time, I didn't feel like I was hiding. I felt like I was grieving. Not for her. For us. For the version of me that stayed too long trying to resuscitate something that didn't even twitch when I finally left. That night, Natalie called. I answered this time. "I'm still married," I said, voice low, heavy. "I know," she replied gently. "And I don't want to rush into something just because I'm hurting." "I know that too." I paused. "So why are you still here?" She was quiet a moment, then said something so simple it cracked me wide open. "Because being wanted is rare, and you're allowed to want it back." I didn't pack a suitcase. Just a duffel bag with 2 shirts, some toiletries, and Max's favorite toy. The one he used to bring me when he thought I was sad. It wasn't a declaration. It wasn't revenge. It was a quiet acknowledgement that I had stayed too long in a home where no one noticed when I wasn't smiling anymore. The next morning, I left Max with a friend and texted her. "I'll be back to talk, but I won't be back to beg." She read it. Didn't reply. I think that was the most honest thing we ever exchanged. That day, I met Natalie for lunch. She didn't ask questions. She didn't lean in with concern or excitement. She just ordered grilled cheese and told me a story about her niece drawing on the walls with permanent marker. It was normal, mundane, safe, and I hadn't realized until that moment how starved I was for something simple, something that didn't feel like I had to earn it. After lunch, we sat in the car with the windows cracked and the radio playing soft, static-laced jazz. She looked at me, not with expectation, but with space. The kind of space that invites you to exist as you are, not as someone else needs you to be. "I'm not here to be your rebound," she said. "I'm not looking for a replacement," I replied. And in that silence, something beautiful happened. Nothing. No pressure. No drama. Just two people who had both been through the fire and learned how not to get burned again. That evening, I returned to the house one last time. She was there, sitting on the couch, ironic, really, scrolling through her phone like I hadn't just stepped out of our lives a week ago. She looked up. "You coming home?" I sat down across from her. Not beside her, Across. No, I said. Calm. Certain. I came to say goodbye. She blinked. You're giving up? No. I'm letting go. There's a difference. I placed a single sheet of paper on the table. It wasn't divorce papers. Not yet. Just a letter. A short one. I didn't read it out loud. She could do that after I left. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just nodded, slowly, like someone realizing the lamp they never turned on had finally stopped working. I walked out the front door. No slamming. No dramatics. Just one last look at the life I tried so hard to salvage. That night, I slept in the hotel again. Not with Natalie. Alone. And for the first time in months, I actually slept. No tossing. No dreams. Just rest. A few weeks later, the divorce papers were signed. Amicable, quiet. Like we were two business partners dissolving a venture neither had the energy to rebuild. Natalie and I didn't rush. We met for coffee, walked the city, shared stories. Some days we didn't talk at all. Just sat beside each other on park benches while the world went on around us. She never asked me to be whole. She just reminded me I hadn't been broken for quite as long as I thought. Months passed, and one evening, as we sat on her balcony, watching a storm roll in, she leaned her head on my shoulder and said, "You seem lighter." I smiled. I stopped carrying someone else's silence. She nodded, said nothing more, because some people want you for who you are, and others only want the part of you they can control. My wife told me to sleep on the couch, so I slept in a hotel. And in that sterile, lonely room, I rediscovered what it meant to be missed.